Well, hello, good people. It's Sharon again. And I'm in what seems to be my favorite studio. I'm sitting in my truck. Although this has nothing to do with my truck in a way, in another way, it does. People get in vehicles to move, to travel, to get around. And lately, there's been a lot of question in the LGBT community. Where can I go that it's better, that it's safe? From what? From politicians, from laws. There are presently over 400 laws or potential laws, bills and such around the United States against LGBT people, mostly T, transgender. This is happening in huge quantities. It's everywhere. And people are worried and people are scared. If you're not in the group, they're not. But a lot of us are. We're a very small percentage. But a lot of us are in those groupings. And the question is, where do I go to be safe? Where they're not going to harass me and write legislation against me and try to destroy my living and my way of life. Politicians are marginalizing us to the point where they don't want anybody LGBT to exist, at least not in public, and show up and say, "Hi, I'm Sharon." They don't want that. They're trying to destroy us. Why? Political gain. It gets worse every time we're coming up to political gain for whatever. Different elections. Right now it has to do with Republicans and Trump, as well as a lot of others, Democrats. I'm not saying everybody's exempt from this. They're not. But if you can take a large group and really pick on and annihilate and destroy a small group, make them evil. We're not evil. Not any more than any other group. Let's face it, there's a percentage of people out there that are bad people. And it doesn't matter if they're LGBT. It doesn't matter if they're plumbers. It doesn't matter if they're bankers. It doesn't matter if they're lawyers. It doesn't matter who. There is a percentage of bad people. But the percentage is not that big. No matter where you go, whatever group you're in, you're going to run into them. That's unfortunate. Most people tend to be good people. But when their politicians, when their representatives say, "Oh, look at these people, they're trying to destroy our way of life. They're trying to convert our children. They're trying to destroy our social and economic patterns to suit those." No. Here's what happens. Anytime we get to election cycles and we're following different politics, they put up a big deal. They'll create a monster. I'm not a monster. And other people like me aren't either. There's a percentage that may be, because there's a percentage of everybody that may be or is. However, if they can demonize me and tell you what a huge problem I am, then they're going to come up with legislation to fix that problem. They're protecting everybody. No, they're not. They're grandstanding, and they're trying to scare people. And when people are scared, it's proven through history, they go vote. Because these folks, these politicians, are going to save them from the evils of the world, whatever those evils may be in that election cycle, or 2 or 3 cycles. So then they become the heroes, and they become politically strong, and they'll save you from a problem that doesn't really exist. It's not a problem. But if they make it seem that way, and then they promise legislation to fix it, they're saving the world. It's a game. And it works. And a lot of people don't take the time to investigate and learn these things. And as a result, they believe the rhetoric that they're told over and over and over without ever looking at the facts or checking it out. What a terrible way to do stuff. If I get out there and say that a particular group of people is bad, often enough, and I spread it around enough, they'll start to believe it. But once in a while, where do we go? Where do we go to get away from it? Right now, Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota. Who cares about Minnesota? Well, if you don't live there, a lot of people don't. A lot of people do. There's nothing wrong with Minnesota, but it's not one of the big political powerhouse states that's going to change patterns of the country. Maybe they are. The governor of Minnesota just signed an executive ruling. It's not law yet, but the executive rule will apply. He's declaring Minnesota a free state. Well, of course, all the states are free. Really? Think about it. And does this make Minnesota entirely free? No. But there's a lot of these bills and legislations in Minnesota against LGBT people, as well as there is everybody else. But the governor says, nope, we're not going to do this. We're not playing that silly game. We are passing this legislation when it comes up, and it probably will come up, and it probably will pass. And that's fantastic. So what is it? Well, they're taking away the stigma and the problems and the ridiculous thoughts and all the crap that goes along with that, to the point where, hey, somebody wants to extradite somebody in Minnesota, has nothing to do with what group they're in, but there's extradition. Minnesota will says, fine, come and get them, but we're not going to help. You're on your own. So other states, you want to come and get them? Come and get them. If they're not causing problems, if they're not an issue, if we're not going to worry about them. But if you want to extradite somebody, come on. But unless they're misbehaving or causing problems, it's up to you. There's a lot of things like that they're doing. They're going to stop restrictions on some businesses. Yeah, I think Minnesota, that's not a real popular state, and they're not the only ones, there are others. They're attracting huge businesses and whatever. What if now, based on this governor's orders, this executive order, it's easier, it's more friendly to promote business. It's easier to hire people. People feel better, they feel safer, because they're not going to be prosecuted just because they exist. Someone like me. They're not going to be prosecuted because they believe in a certain way. As long as that way is legal, welcome to it. This is going to open up a lot of avenues for businesses. A lot of business trading. Even if it's just offices in Minnesota and their base is maybe somewhere else, but they're controlling it from there. Let's face it, Minnesota is going to open up a lot of business. They're going to get a lot of commerce. They're going to have an influx of people. It's going to help their universities, their colleges. It's a good political move. It's a very good economic move. So where do I go to get away from persecution and crap? As of the last couple of days, your best bet is Minnesota. Now, if this takes off and they do well, does that mean other states might follow suit when they see the benefits? Sure. I anticipate that in the next year there's going to be quite a few of them. Quite a lot. Because you want the votes, you want the political power, okay. That's fine. You can have it. Because we're going to be in favor of that. We're not going to try to establish grief and problems. And you know what? When that starts benefiting the state economically, politically, and everything else, they're going to get more people coming. They're going to get more political power. They're going to get more clout. Why wouldn't the other states want that? Well, they will. So some of these things that are terrible for us right now, for many people, for many races, for many religions, for many everything, why would you not want to promote that and get those advantages? You can. Minnesota is starting to do it. So that doesn't mean right now, pack up everything you got and go to Minnesota. Sit tight for just a little bit. See if your state does the same thing. There's enough discussion in Ohio and enough things going on in Ohio. Although Ohio's gotten fairly bad lately. In a lot of ways, Ohio's gotten better. What if they jump on the bandwagon and follow Minnesota? There's no reason for people to move there. And then they're in another state that has the clout and the power to do the right things to benefit the state itself and all the people there. So this is something we need to keep an eye on. Watch how it unfolds. Watch what happens. As far as I can tell you, it's going to be a very positive thing. And while right now it's an executive order, legislation is already starting to form for it. This wasn't a dumb move. This wasn't not planned. And when it happens, they're going to have some clout that they didn't have before. They're going to have commerce. They're going to have influence that didn't exist before. How many states are going to be able to say, no, we don't want to do that? It's not going to be very common. And it's going to be a very good thing. So I've heard it asked many times, where do I go? I've even heard that about Ohio. Guess what? I live in Ohio. That's probably easy to figure out by now if you didn't already know. Akron, Ohio specifically. I worked for over 20 years in Cleveland. Still lived in Akron and in Cuyahoga Falls. There's a lot of good things in Akron and Cuyahoga Falls. Akron itself is very LGBT friendly as far as their local legislations and things like that go. So I don't want to go anywhere. I want it to get better. And if they have half a brain and they follow what the governor of Minnesota has done, it will. So let's hang on and see what happens. It's just my opinion. Till next time, take care.